Hello and welcome. In this episode we're going to be building a car from some scrap wood. The main tools you're going to need for this are going to be a jigsaw, a sander and maybe a file or something like that. So let's crack on with it. So the first thing to do is print some templates. Here's the designs I went with. I then moved on to cutting out the sapele. For this I used my Bosch jigsaw as it gives a really quick cut and it's also quite accurate for doing something quite intricate like this. So as you can see we've cut out the car template, I guess, the body of the car. I then moved on to cutting the middle section. I used ash for this as I find it very easy to work with. This was a rather challenging shape to cut though, due to it being very intricate and having lots of tight curves. So I decided to use a very fine blade on my jigsaw as this helped me get around all these curves very easily and it didn't take too long to cut out the shape. Right, so we've got the body and I guess the main section of the car done. Now we need to do the nerve-wracking part, which is actually making the wheel assembly, which will go into this car. Now, as you can see at the moment, this is very rough and will require quite a bit of sanding, but I'm not too fussed about that. I had to do quite a lot on the boat as well. This time I can't really block plane it, so it's going to be a bit more sanding, but I don't actually mind sanding that much. It makes the project look nice. So you can see roughly what we're going for. Obviously, this needs to be lowered so it matches the same profile, but if I do it like that, you can sort of get what I mean. So I've done a bit of measuring using some calipers and a steel rule. So I've got just about 33mm of space in this wheel, and just by luck I have a 32mm hole saw here. So we're now going to drill out the wheels for this. This is exactly what I used to make this template. I was going to make two, but actually the car's a good thickness already, so we're just going to use the leftover of this and drill out 4 holes. This was where I tried to drill out the holes using a hand drill, but this didn't end up working. So I've been having a think about the car and decided I wasn't as happy as I should be with it. I mean, it looks great, but it also looks a bit ridiculous. This front end is hideous, it needs fixing. I like the rest of the car though, but as you can see, the wheels actually touch the floor, which is good, but then the bottom of the car actually touches the floor. So we need to do a bit of refining on this. So we need to cut this bit. So if I grab a ruler, that line there, and likewise we need to take a little bit off this front end, so we'll just do the same marking, so just there, and we need to do the same on the other bit. So we're taking off 0.5 centimetre, give or take. I had to make some changes to the shape of the car due to the wheels sitting against the car's body, and this meant that the car's body was actually touching the ground, so it didn't really work as a car, so I ended up just cutting a couple of millimetres off of it. Alright, so we now need to make the wheels for the car, so I've just clamped this up so you can see what I'm getting at rather than holding it. So these original wheels I tried to drill by hand because this drill press takes a while to set up, but as you can see, whilst they look like perfectly circular, they're not. They're a bit lopsided. So we're going to use the drill press to drill a perfectly 90-degree hole. Using the drill press, I then drilled out the wheels. So once I drilled the wheels to the size I needed, which is 32mm, I've checked the fitment for the wheel arch. This is the wheel arch where I went slightly wrong last time, as I spoke about. So I could recut this piece of sapele so it looks nicer, but to be honest, I don't see the point. So what I've done is marked across here where I need this all to assemble and cut some dowel length for the wheels so they spin nicely. So all we need to do now is take these clamps off. There's no glue on this, this is just so I can see how it all fits together. And now we actually need to do the nerve-wracking part, which is apply the glue. I then moved on to gluing the car up. I did encounter some problems here as the wheels didn't turn as they hit the car's body, so I had to try and pry the pieces apart before the glue dried, and as you can see, I did manage to do it luckily. I then moved on to sanding the car to make a nice even surface so it looked good. For this I used my belt sander, but you could just do it by hand. Alright, so I've just been doing a bit more refining work on the car. It's looking great now. I'm just going to sort this out with the hand sander. These wheel arches, I tried to use a bit of sandpaper and a file to remove these black lines, but I can't, and you won't see them with the wheels anyway, so I'm not too fussed by that. But the wheels that I made, let's face it, are a bit rubbish now because Unfortunately, I didn't think about the 6mm hole being drilled accurately straight, because I was holding this with a clamp, which isn't the best idea, especially when that's spinning round quite fast. So these wheels don't actually spin straight. If I demonstrate, you can hopefully see the axle doesn't spin straight. So yeah, these wheels are essentially useless. The dowel might be fine, I might just cut a new piece. The plan is to drill 4 holes, but I want to drill a 6mm hole, so I'm not actually going to go the whole way through. I'm going to drill it just so this drill bit starts to touch the surface, and then enlarge with a 6mm hole. As I've just discussed, the previous 2 attempts of drilling out the wheels didn't really work as I had hoped, so I tried a different method here, which worked way better as I had the 6mm hole perfectly straight. So with all the prep work done on the wheels, they look pretty good in my opinion. I've spent about, I don't know, an hour and a half trying to work all of this car out, how to finish it. I've got thousands of failures of the wheels. I think I've got about 10, yeah, including the 2 that I didn't finish drilling. I've got 10 failures. The reason for that is it was really hard getting a 6mm hole drilled into these and keeping it straight, but I worked out a way to do it, and I'll talk you through that in the voiceover section of this. I'm just gonna hammer it in. Might have made a bit more sense to go 6.5. I might actually just take a couple of millimeters off of this, just by giving it a light rub over with some sandpaper. Look, you can see how much it's taken off there. So that is what we need to get it down to. So I've taken a bit off of this so it slides in with relative ease now, so I'm just going to put this in here. I sanded the edges of the dowels so they fit in the wheels. So now all we need to do to the car is sand these lines here, so this is all nice and smooth. Perhaps do a little bit of sanding on the underside. To be honest, I don't really think it needs it. I've left the wheels overhanging, as you can see, and there as well. But you could, of course, just push them in a bit if you would prefer them to be a bit tighter. This is so much better than the previous attempt I had done to put wheels on. I'm not very happy with this bit here. That really does annoy me. But I'm not rebuilding the car. It sits nicely if I point the camera down. It rolls great. Probably not on sawdust, but I know. It rolls well, so I'm very happy, to be honest. I just want to tidy this bit up, and we're going to actually spray lacquer this for a change, because I don't usually do that. We're now on to everyone's favourite part, finishing. So I've got some cellulose sanding sealer here. I've given it a bit of a shake, but I'll shake it up again. So I've worked on sanding the car up to a nice 180 grit. I'm really happy with this, from something I wasn't sure was ever going to make it to a video, because it was sitting upstairs in my bedroom last night and I was thinking about whether I'm even going to make it a video. But luckily I found a way, which I'm over the moon about, to be honest. So we're going to apply some cellulose sanding sealer. I have no idea how liquidy it is either, how much to put on, but we're just going to go with that and rub it all in. At the end of the day, this isn't the actual finish. This is just a little bit of sealer. Right, that bit of rag's knackered. Let's move on to the next piece. And apply some on here, and the wheels we need to do. So we're going to let that dry for 5 minutes now. So whilst this is drying, I'm going to talk you through what I'm going to be using to actually, I guess, coat it. I'm going to be using acrylic satin lacquer. If I had gloss, I would use it, but I'm not going to buy a can of gloss lacquer when I primarily use satin. So we need to give this a shake. Right. And we're going to give this 3 coats, I think, maybe 4, which would take me about an hour and a half to 2 hours to apply. Obviously with 20-minute breaks, so I'm going to go and apply a layer in about 5 minutes, which will be about 1 o'clock. And then after that, I'll go and have some lunch and do another coat after that. I did forget to say, we need to give this a light coating, a light sanding, sorry. I'm going to use 400 grit because I don't think you want to use anything coarser than that. I sanded with 400 grit to create a good key for finishing. I used about 3 or 4 coats of acrylic sanding sealer on this. Here's some photos of how the project turned out. I really hope you've enjoyed watching this video. Thanks for watching.